Hello and welcome to another gemakei snapshot where we're going to take a look at a current gen title and offer you our first impressions. Again, these are not full reviews and should not be considered as such. These are simply our early impressions from the first few hours to the first fourth of a title. And the game in question today is Mortal Kombat, or Mortal Kombat 9, depending on how you look at it, but there's a reason it's called Mortal Kombat and nothing else. That's very story related. I guess you could spoil it. Basically, it's just it sort of pulls a Star Trek, as in the current gen Star Trek, where it starts at the very end of the Mortal Kombat timeline and then like has Raiden pulling a last ditch effort to go back in time and restart everything. So very cool way of rebooting, but not ignoring the continuity of the old franchise. So, anyways, that's if you're into this Mortal Kombat story. Mortal Kombat, how's it play? Well, it basically ditches the 3D of the past games like Armageddon, Deadly Alliance, and Deception, and goes back to a strictly 2D. But it's all 3D polygons. I think it's running off the Unreal Engine. Looks very much like it, but it's very strictly 2D playing. It basically pulls a Street Fighter 4. And it works really well. The graphics, even they're unreal, but they look fantastic. Like the backgrounds are super animated. Everything looks fantastic. Whether you're in like a pit of hell or like some otherworldly coliseum with ogres and monsters roaming around in the background and the crowd going nuts. It's all very flashy graphically. How's it play? Well, it actually plays a lot like the last big 2D Mortal Kombat Ultimate MK3. I couldn't give you the nuances, but I can tell you it feels a lot like the classic Mortal Kombat 2, Mortal Kombat 3 style of feeling. The combo system, the general movement, the way punches and kicks and thrown out, the way special moves are done, all reminiscent of the early MK titles, which is probably good for a lot of Mortal Kombat fans who probably didn't lost interest somewhere around 4 or didn't pick up into 5. Now, what that does mean is it loses something they had starting with Mortal Kombat 5 Deadly Alliance, where you had basically each character had multiple type fighting styles. Like they had like 2 martial arts styles and 1 weapon style. So it kind of loses that, but that's kind of a good thing in a way because it loses the whole kitchen sink mentality of like giving everyone like 3 whole separate movesets that you can like switch on and off on the fly. Streamlines it a bit more, makes it more in pace with normal fighting games. Although I'm sure the fans of that fighting style will miss it, but this is going back again, both in story and in gameplay, to the original Mortal Kombat. Now that the graphics and controls are settled out of the way, like if you don't like Mortal Kombat 2, Mortal Kombat 3's fighting engine or fighting style, you're not going to change your mind on this game because this goes back to that. So keep that in mind. Now, as far as like content goes, this Mortal Kombat should be the gold standard for content in a fighting game going forward. Capcom, if they can learn anything from this, this is how you present a fighting game. Now, one big example and one that I was most impressed by is the story mode. Now, there is an arcade mode, which is classic ladder match, just go up the tournament ring, whatever. They have a story mode. The story mode has like hours of cutscenes animated. It starts off with like the original Mortal Kombat tournament beginning, and like Johnny Cage is going around like smack talking, all the other fighters and like hitting on others. And like Shang Tsung comes out and says, you're gonna be the first guy fighting, and then Johnny Cage is like, all right, fine, and like he jumps in the ring, and the camera pans to a side view, and all of a sudden, bam, you're starting the game. And you didn't choose Johnny Cage, but that's how the story goes. Each story is like broken down into chapters. And each chapter, has like the story of a certain character, but told in a very cinematic way that on the fly goes straight into the, the fighting. It's super cinematic. It's very well done. This is exactly what fighting games need because, there's always going to be people who do not give a flying fuck about the storyline, which is fine. You have your arcade mode. And then there are the people who like getting into the story and like the mythology. And here we have a super well done, like long thought out story mode that is fantastic. So that, is probably one of the most impressive things. And some I didn't even really see advertised for it because most of the advertising was just like, hey, look, it's like the old Mortal Kombat, but with awesome graphics. That's cool, that's fine. But, hey, I was totally unaware of how well, and how big they were implementing the story mode into this game. It's fantastic. This is what every fighting game should aspire to. Unfortunately, if you don't like the old style Mortal Kombat fighting engine, it kind of, it only goes so far for you. Now, I actually kind of fall into this camp. I don't really like the movement and the fluidity of the old Mortal Kombat games. I always felt they were vastly inferior to Street Fighter. It's personal preference. It's not really saying one is objectively better than the other. It's just preference, really. And I couldn't really get into it because to me, I look back at Mortal Kombat 1, 2, and 3, and I just look. We only give a shit about it because it was violent and gory, and we hadn't seen that level of carnage in an arcade game before. But other than that, to me, it just seemed like they were pretty shallow titles. That's maybe not true, but at the same time, to me, that's where Mortal Kombat got its fame from. And it is a bit true. It did get a lot of its fame from the gore. Let's not kid ourselves here. But I actually thought, starting with Deadly Alliance and Deception, and Armageddon, I thought those were the best Mortal Kombats because I actually felt, their battle systems to me were more fluid and more fun to get into. But that's me. That's not everyone else. And I can totally understand the reason they went back to this. And for those who are fearing like they went back to maybe was Armageddon's kind of custom fatality, or that they had the really shitty neutered fatalities from Mortal Kombat versus DC, forget it, guys. It's back to the old style. You're getting the good old rip your spine out, crush them into a million pieces, blood, guts, gore, classic fatalities. That's cool. So that's all there. There's hidden fatalities, and there's fatalities they tell you how to do in the menu. So it's all cool. It's all very well done. Another weird thing is they have a sort of build-up meter where, kind of like how the super meter works in Street Fighter 4, where if you build it up enough, you can do kind of like this rib-crushing move, where each character does their own kind of version, where they get in close and just do some ball-bustingly nasty move, and it does this thing where the camera will zoom in slow motion and then X-ray you crushing a person's rib cage, or popping their kneecap or something like that. Just something just disgustingly gory. I think it's ripped straight out of their last Blitz title. And it's great for the gore hounds because it's another way Mortal Kombat separates itself as being pound for pound, the bloodiest, nastiest, brutalist fighting game out around. So that's all really cool. I mean, it's getting a lot of good attention too from the fighting community. It's not being totally ignored either. I mean, it's got a large good sizable community of people who are mastering the title and bringing a lot out of it. So it's whether you like the fighting engine or not, it's kind of irrelevant. As a Mortal Kombat title, it is probably the best one they've ever done. It's so polished, so well thought out, and so feature packed. It puts Capcom stuff to shame, especially Marvel vs. Capcom 3, which you may like that, and there's nothing wrong with it, but man, does it the amount of content between the two games is staggering. So. But again, this only applies if you like the original Mortal Kombat fighting style, because all of the amazing content extra in the world will not change the game for you if you don't like the old MK style game. And if you didn't like the old Mortal Kombat style of gameplay, you probably wouldn't even be listening to this right now. So for the people who are listening because they like Mortal Kombat or have a fond memory, or have followed every game, you want this title. If you haven't bought it already, go buy it. This is the pinnacle of this series so far. So this is a definite buy. One of the top fighting games of the year. Easily is probably going to win best fighting game of the year all around. So keep that in mind. Definite buy for people who don't like fighting games. Just check it out. Just try the story mode. See what I'm talking about. See what fighting games can be. They can really aspire to more than what they have been. And amazingly enough, it's Mortal Kombat doing it. Beyond just the gore, which is still there and still oozing, you have a title that's actually pushing the envelope as far as quality and content goes for the genre. And Warner Brothers made a brilliant move in picking up NetherRealm Studios, whatever they're called now, the Mortal Kombat team. Brilliant move, and this is going to be a big favorite for a lot of people. So go out, buy it, and if you don't like, the old games, just try it. Just see what it's like. Anyways, that'll wrap it up for this gemakei snapshot, and see you next time.